today?
Doing good.
Doing fine.
Yeah,
All right.
Good.
Good. Yeah, I'm all right here myself. There's a bit of stuff to talk about. Obviously, there was some news yesterday. I don't know if you guys all watched there was an earnings call, and it sounds like there's going to be some upcoming changes at Unity. I'm a little bit interested. I'm a lot interested in seeing how this all kind of plays out and what happens. It sounds like they're going to be focusing more on the game engine part and the stuff that kind of integrates heavily with the game engine and less on other things. I have no idea what that actually means, technically. But did you guys all watch the earnings call and see any of that, or keep up or read any of the news about it?
I didn't watch it, but I've heard some news about it. I I'm like, games, okay.
Yeah. I always wait a few days. I'll wait until things have settled before I make any decisions on anything.
Yeah, I didn't watch, but I checked the. I think it's shareholder letter, the one that they released.
Yeah, it was interesting. Okay, the shareholder letter right there. Yeah, we'll drop here. Let me copy that link. I'll put it into chat. The PDF. I don't know if it'll open for people, but yeah, that was the letter that was sent out, and then there was the earnings call where they talked about mostly just about refocusing on Unity stuff and things that were integrated. Again, I don't really know what that ends up meaning, like if they're gonna sell off other departments or divisions, or if they're just gonna reinvest in the things that they think are the most important, and maybe move resources around, or what. I honestly have no clue, but it sounds like they're going to be talking about that in the next couple months. And I mean, I think everybody kind of thought, at least a lot of people that I talked to have thought that Unity seemed kind of distracted with lots of stuff going on, tons of acquisitions, and buying a bunch of things that weren't necessarily video game related, that were kind of like loosely related. So I'm curious to see if this is going to be bringing it back to that game dev side, and if it's actually going to have some good positive impacts for game developers. I have no idea, but I'm curious to see. I was wondering what you guys thought and what everybody in chat thinks.
I heard that there's a new Zelda movie coming out, and then I heard another article saying, are video game movies the next superhero movies? And I thought, then now that you're saying focusing on games, I'm like, well, great time to just focus on games when games are about to become movies.
Yeah. I didn't know there was a Zelda movie coming out. I have to check that out.
That's what I heard. And then I followed that up with my friends by posting something about the Zelda animated series with links saying like, I forget the term now. I lost the punchline, but saying something like the same phrase to Zelda over and over and over. And then it reminded people of all the different Zelda things back in the 80s that were ridiculous, but they're fun to look at. If you haven't seen the old Zelda stuff, go on YouTube.
The CDI games, yeah, they were interesting cutscenes. I really hate this narrative. Specifically, it drives me insane. Yeah, but excuse me, princess. Yeah, that's a quote. That's
excuse me, princess.
Yeah, I really hate this narrative that like movies are the ultimate art form, right? Like they used to do this with TV shows as well. A TV show has succeeded when they've made a movie out of it. A game has succeeded when they've made a movie out of it, and it's like it's so backwards. It really is.
A lot of games actually cost more to make the movies now, so maybe it's the other way around. A movie has succeeded when they make a game about it, when they make a Baldur's Gate out of it.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I personally love video game movies and shows, though. Even though a lot of them are terrible, I still like watching them.
Yeah, I'll watch it whenever Zelda movie comes out. No doubt, in the theater. I'll buy popcorn too.
Well, don't save me a seat. I will not be bothering. I have a wall of Zelda stuff. I have replica masks, replica shields, and I'm not watching the damn movie.
You don't need to save him a seat because he's already watched it. He's in it.
Who wrote it?
Yeah. Oh, That's good stuff. Well, yeah, I will check it out. I'll watch it with you. Hey, it looks like Jules just ordered the dragon skeleton.
To be
Hopefully,
fair,
got
no
a good
offense,
deal
Jules.
on it.
No offense, Jules, but that is the lowest effort thing you could have ordered. So everyone should go do it because it's just a click of a button. 2 buttons. How many buttons? 3 buttons? It's a few button clicks.
Does it require a coupon code now, or is it still free? Do you know?
I don't know. Yesterday there was some bug with the coupon code, so it was free. I don't know if that was fixed or not, so I haven't checked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't grabbed it, you may as well just go grab it. It's the skeleton dragon. It's like I think it was $60, right? Normally. Yeah. And yeah, it's just an undead dragon. It reminds me of when I used to play EverQuest and killing Zendikar and the other undead dragon.
Yeah, and for folks who look at it, and I know there's probably somebody watching right now who's thinking, oh, shoot, that looks really cool by making a mobile game, and that looks very complicated. There's a lot of bones in that dragon. I mean, the bones in the dragon have nothing to do with the bones in the rig, but there's a lot of bones in the rig too. And I will tell you, this dragon was used for my 2015 mobile game, The Barbarian. It was one of the boss battles. So this dragon works perfectly fine in mobile 2015. So it works perfectly fine in mobile 2024.
But now if you use it, everybody's going to be like, isn't this the dragon from the Barbarian mobile game from 2015?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's going to be one person who says that, and it's my friend who always makes fun of me because he couldn't get the axe out of the stump. And apparently when he played the game, there is just an axe from a manufacturer 4K pack. There was an axe in a stump. It took like 20 minutes trying to get it out. But he couldn't. And so that was an early level design lesson for me. Just to say, oh, maybe axes and stumps, just like levers in a dungeon.
Oh, you beat me to it. I was going to call you out on that.
Need to be something that you can pull. Elden Rings reference, everybody. I just compared my 2015 mobile game, The Barbarian, to Elden Rings.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Essentially, yeah. They just had a lot more comments in the game than mine did.
They both have
it's
bones.
a game where you fight the big dragon. Which one am I talking about? Huh?
Point. It could be any game. Yeah.
Oh, there was a comment I had to pull up. I need a high quality model to test stuff, so I'll be picking it up. Well, it'd be weird testing a clothing system on a dragon.
I don't think so. I mean,
you have an armor system for him, don't you?
Yeah.
No, we haven't gotten to that yet. There's armor for the horse, I think.
I thought you had it for the regular dragon for some reason.
No, well, there's different backs you can put on: spikes, fins, carapace, nothing, different tails, different heads, and all that. So there's options, but it's not armor. I mean,
we live in a world of pigeon dating sims, so a dragon dress-up game is not off the cards, you know.
They're big creatures.
Game of the year.
If they're that smart, in many games and stories, dragons are smart, but they don't wear clothes, and it's like, there's something to that. I'm not gonna read too much into it, but
make a dragon fashion game. Open up your own dragon clothing store and sell dragon clothes.
The bone dragon, I call it bone dragon because that's the original name of it, but I think skeleton dragon is probably better for SEO. So the skeleton dragon is the same shape as the regular dragon, which is everyone likes. Nice, thanks, Lem. Everyone likes the regular dragon, but they're the same. So you could technically have one dragon die and have it come back to life as a skeleton dragon in your game. And there's also the young dragons, which are younger, slenderer versions of the big dragon. So you could have a whole dragon life cycle going on if you wanted to. And yes, the flash deals start next week. I was thinking about that. I'm publisher of the week, which, by the way, if you didn't know, that means everything is 50% off. And then the flash deals start next week. So there's something else to look at while you're there that might distract you from my stuff, which it's fine. That's fine.
Oh, okay. You can actually see the flash deals up there now?
Yeah, they're on preview.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. I didn't realize that. I have to go check that out.
Yeah. There are dragons.
Yeah. Go grab the dragon and check them out and use the hatchlings. I like the idea of the dragon dress-up game. You got little kid dragons and got your old dragons.
Little grandma dragon in a little bonnet knitting.
Oh.
Eating a chocolate.
Oh. So anything else new going on?
I made a new package just because I was feeling like it. I made a new tool for myself for my own game. I was working on a portraits for Legend of the Stones because for those of you know, I'm working on this Legend of the Stones game that has portraits. It's like an old Might and Magic game.
It's like character portraits, right? Like that.
Yeah, 4 or 5 or however many people in your party at the bottom. And the last version I had made was very much there were a lot of connections with other systems, and it was, you know, you change one thing, you change everything, right? So I wanted to make a very encapsulated portrait system, updated. I knew I could do better than I did last time, and it's not super complicated. It's just, you know, bringing in UI and then having some connections to the game logic. Nothing super complicated. So I wanted to make that, and in the process, I started going down this rabbit hole of like, what if I could make? I basically, for the demo scene, I had colorful lighting, and I was like, oh, you can see the lighting on the people's faces. That was the main point, is the light on the portraits in the world affects the faces. That's, you know, so there was that. But then I was like, ooh, what if I could make the UI, you know, the borders look colorful too? And so I went down this rabbit hole, and I ended up finding a way to sample the color at a position in the scene and then pass that to whatever you want. So yes, the color of the you know, magic spell goes by the players and you see it on their faces. But now you can also see, you know, a pink spell, suddenly all the UI gets pink and then fades out. Or you go from the sunlight to the shadow and the UI kind of fades darker a little bit. You're next to the light and the light's like orange and fiery. So I released that last night too, because I was like, you know what? Nobody's asked for this one, but I like it.
Well, that's how all the lighting kits work, right? Like all of these LED ones that sync up to televisions and stuff. They just use pixel detection on edges, and then they colorize relative to the pixels. So it's a cool technique to have.
There you go. So now you can make a TV in Unity.
Yeah. You make a TV and then render something on it and light up the lights behind it. That's cool. It's neat. It's always nice, I think, when you make an asset that's actually just solving the problem that you had. I feel like that's kind of the best way to go about it. Have the problem and then solve it and then make it available for other people after.
I like the idea of just, it's a one thing that does one thing really well. You know, I've got like game modules does a lot of things really well, but this is one thing really well. And so I think I'm going to try to do more of these, just because I like the idea of simple, small, straightforward things. I'm going to send you a link so people can see it. It's called Runtime Color Sampler.
Ooh.
And if I can.
Is it up on the asset store now?
It is. I put it up last night, but it's already buried in the new release discounts. There it is. On page 3 of the new release discounts, which means a lot of new assets were released in the past 12 hours.
I dropped it in chat as well. Go check that thing out.
Anyways, but that's what I'm working on. And next, I've got an idea of what the next one is, but I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it yet.
Okay. Let me screen share this real quick. I just want to show everybody what it is you're talking about with this runtime color sampler. Hit share. Bam.
I really like the logo you picked, but I'm kind of reticent to praise you too much for it, because I know perfectly well that's AI generated.
Yeah. I'm an AI guy living in an AI world. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. That's definitely cool art and definitely AI. Oh, let me remove the other thing here and make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Yeah, that's definitely a cool logo, though.
Yeah, I went through, you know, it's AI, but it took about 20 minutes to get that logo, which is, oops, not as loud. I was looking at the video. You can kind of see, if you look at the first video, after second 10, about 10 seconds, and you can kind of get a sense of what it does.
You said 10 seconds in?
Yeah, you will see it right here. So in the top left of this is the actual sample sphere, the thing being sampled. And then you can see the color happening on that portrait. It's attached, it's happening on the text, and it's affecting that rectangle. So as the color changes, you'll see the other things change as well. There's a fade on it, so that, you know, that you could have the fade be 0, but then when the sample goes from one color to another, your UI is going to flicker and it's going to look weird. So there is a fade, so it's a more of a slow thing. But basically, you get a color output, You run it through processors. They're called runtime color settings, just scriptable objects with a bunch of options. That way you can clamp the colors. That way, if your character goes into an area that's nearly pitch black, your UI doesn't have to turn pitch black. You can clamp the minimum color to be, something that's not pitch black. Your portraits can be lighter than your background if you want to always make sure you can see the faces to a certain degree. You can override the colors. So I'm working on the portraits pack. It's going to be free. And there's going to be a demo that brings these two together. But in that one, you'll be able to click on the portraits to do damage, quote unquote. And in that process, you'll see a red flash because you can override the colors, just like you can override the colors now by just changing that color value in the inspector or via code. You can still do that with this. So you can do both of those things together. And you can override them on a complete setting. So everything that's listening to one settings object can be overridden at the same time, or individual objects and override them. And so the demo scene is going to have that where you can click to do heal, click to do damage. There will be a health bar, so you can see that that's always brighter. And there's different blending modes as well with the colors. So it doesn't blend the whole image; it just blends the two colors. So you're not multiplying a red color over every pixel on the image, but rather the color overlay is being blended. But you can get some neat looks out of it that way. So it's
there is one feature I'd want personally.
Oh yeah.
So I'm noticing based on the list you've got there, the colors are mostly remaining in RGB space. But if you use the converter, there's a color utility tool that converts it out into HSL or hue, light, and saturation. What would be really nice for this kind of thing is if you wanted to keep the color of your UI but be affected by the saturation and lightness of the thing that passes by. So basically, if you move into a bright area, it would brighten the UI but retain its existing color values. You could do that by HSL shifting and then retaining the old hue value but just changing the other two. Or inversely, if you wanted to tint something the color but keep it the like as bright as it was originally or as sort of saturated as it was originally. So being able to choose which of the three aspects of the incoming color you'd want would be a feature I'd probably add myself on top of it if I was using it.
Let me I'll have to look into that. I spent a couple days in a dirt pit of HSL converting where things were they would come back completely the wrong color. And I couldn't figure it out. My trusty AIs couldn't figure it out. So I'll have to dig it more into that because that was the concept I wanted to go with it, because you don't want your hue to change when you get darker necessarily, but you do want the saturation to change maybe, or just do cool things, whatever it might be. A cool magic spell going by from some boss might desaturate everything and make it just a really cool effect. And then there's the reversing the color. That's an interesting one. So flipping the values, so in pitch black it will be white. That's an interesting concept of inverting the color, just a toggle to invert the output, and that's something that should be easy to add. So I think I will definitely investigate that as well.
There's other options too. Like another fun one is you can take a value, split the HSL, and then build yourself a gradient by just sampling at 10 or 20% across each one, and then compose a new gradient object with it. And you can get a really nice gradiated color that you can now sample anywhere along the gradient relative to that position. So there's a lot of really kind of interesting things you can do by combining some of these features, because at the end of the day, it's three numbers, and it's like a vector, right? Like a vector lets you do scale, lets you do position, lets you do rotation. It's a lot of power, but functionally it's adding a number go up, number go down, right? There's
number go down, hopefully not above 1 or below 0. Yeah, it really is, and it's one of those things where the most complicated part is really just getting the color, getting that average color, and that requires a shader and some code. But once you have that number, it's up to you what to do with it. And all of the scripts are also have virtual methods, so you can make your own derived classes and expand them if you really want to, and pass them to new objects and new types that your game has that others don't, and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I'm going to play with that a little bit. It looks like a couple people are pretty interested in it too.
Yeah, that's good.
All this math talk reminded me of yesterday when I got to blow a toddler's mind by letting him know that numbers can actually go below 0. It was just funny watching his jaw. I was like, I can go negative? What? isn't
If you start
frustrating.
programming, it'll be the reason why half of your arrays break.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I got to get them started counting at 0. So, all right, let's count to 10. 0, 1, 2. I did get them the baby engineering books though. I've had those for a while. I don't know if you guys have seen those. I saw them on Kickstarter a long time ago. They're really cool though. It's like a little electronics book with some LEDs and some buttons. And then as you flip through the pages, it changes the way the electronic circuit works. So the first one's just like a switch turns on. Second one's like a not switch, or an invert. Hit it and it turns on when you let go. And then it's got a whole bunch of different ones. And they really like those and the counting and binary ones. I have no idea if they're going to have any impact, but for $10, $15, it was worth it to get them.
I gotta get you. I gotta get you to send me a link to that because I have a brother who has a 1-year-old who would probably be totally into that. For him,
okay.
Really, it's gonna be for him, but
yeah,
or his kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you let your kid play with it, and they push the button, and you just hope that they understand it, and then have them count in binary. I remember I had my actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, he's 15 now, and I got him a book to count in binary when he was a kid, and he loves coding. He codes all day, so maybe it has an impact. I got to make sure that they all start counting in binary from the beginning.
You know, I've got this binary on this hoodie that I have, and it says GameDev.
You got to decode.
Is that what it says? I don't know.
Yeah.
It says GameDev. And this 10-year-old friend of a kid of my friend was basically, she spent like a good minute saying ones and zeros, just reading it. And I was like, it says GameDev. She's like, no, she didn't believe me. 8 means one letter, and she didn't believe me. So,
it's only if you agree on ASCII.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, you guys have any other interesting topics this week that are going on?
I've been working on a few side projects. One of the things I was working on earlier today, actually, is someone asked me some questions about design pattern stuff, and so I ended up going on a bit of a tangent again, building some examples for the concept was about using patterns in tandem. So a lot of people kind of get stuck in the loop of learning one or two, and so I was kind of trying to come up with a fun example. So I built basically a board game controller thing that used command pattern for undo redo, factories for building the different commands, builders for constructing like collections of entities, mediators for sending between back and forth. And trying to do is kind of a little bit of code to allow for kind of a fun set of players can take turns, they can undo and redo their unique moves, but then the board can undo and redo the state of the game. You can have people switch between controlling one unit, multiple units, or like building sets of units by grouping them and then swapping which groups, and all of it still undoes and redoes appropriately, and kind of demonstrating how realistically there's like 4 principles that make all of that work, and it's just nesting the different concepts inside of each other.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. Where did you end up doing that? Just in Discord, or did you do a post about it? Or
well, that was actually just someone pinged me on Discord who's learning programming and wanted some help. So I haven't like put it somewhere, but I guess I could. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and everybody that's not, I'm gonna find that link, and I'm going to link Stories Discord again, because if you're not in there and you use Discord, you should be. Where's that link? It's on here somewhere. I eventually will find it. There it is. I'm really sorry. I have way too many things in here. Way too much stuff. I gotta go clear it all out. But yeah, go join and let everybody check that out. Oh. Good question. No, Andrew, I did not.
I asked in our little private chat that nobody else can see because it's secret. Did any of you watch the OpenAI keynote? Because somebody in the chat mentioned OpenAI's build a GPT, and when you said that, Zerath, I quickly checked because for the past few days I've been kind of annoyed that I haven't had access to this, and now I have access. It turns out, so I'm going to try to create my first GPT. And what I'm going to try to do is build a chat GPT that reads my docs so you can ask chatbot about how to use my assets. And it's because
actually that does bring up something fun because this drives me slightly insane. So there's now a uptick in data-driven GPTs where, without going into the whole big rabbit hole of what vector encodings are and how to build your own, basically, it just goes back to numbers again. A lot of the GPTs started out as being ingest of data. You kind of consume what's there. But now we're moving into the personalization age, right? Where like it comes down to each custom model of encoding. And so what a lot of people are going to be doing very soon is building what's called a corpus. In other words, getting a large amount of data and trying to shove it into a GPT of some kind. A lot of people are going to be doing that because that's kind of what their branding is. They want you selling these individual ones. And so this is just a I don't know, public service announcement. If you find yourself doing that by right-click saving anything, stop and ask if there's a better way. Because already I'm seeing a lot of people doing a lot of manual work. A good example of this is someone was talking about subtitles on YouTube, and they're like, oh, say I wanted to get all of the Jason Story content from previous stuff. It's like, what am I going to open up 500 tabs on YouTube and get the subtitles? No. And so I basically did a little example to show how I actually get, if I was getting subtitles and wanted to pass it to ChatGPT or something, this is a little clip I made just to demonstrate how I would approach it.
Let's pop it up. Is the answer just ask ChatGPT to do it for you?
Close enough. Well, the takeaway is you've got a terminal, you've got command line, there's tools to do all of this stuff. My short answer is just don't do it manually. There's an infinite amount of free tools. This little example is just me saying I wanted the subs from a YouTube video, so I wrote subs YouTube video, and then that's saved to a text file, and then I piped the text file into GPT, which I have a local CLI version running, and then I have it spit out the values, and then I pipe that results into a text file again. So I can build little micro things that says for each video in playlist on YouTube, iterate each one, run subtitle grabber, subtitle the text to whatever. I'm not currently doing that for anything. This is just little batch files I've written over the years for different stuff I use. But the principle is what I wanted to get across. Is just don't find yourself doing an awful lot of copying and pasting for stuff. You can even ChatGPT you can just use on your terminal if you set it up correctly, you know.
It's for me it's what's the there's a grid for programming about the effort and the benefit. I forget the grid. We've seen it on the show a few years ago, but if it's going to save you 1 minute per day or 1 hour per day, and it's going to take, you know, the amount of effort we'll do. This is straight up that kind of thing. If you're going to be doing something, it's going to save you 5 minutes every single time you do it, and it's going to take you 1 hour to do it, and you're going to do it like every week for the next 2 years. You should spend that 1 hour and make the system right. So I that's the way GPT.
The more broad kind of thing I want to get to with that is, unlike a lot of things where it's one for one, it's kind of like it might be like saying I have to move all of these boxes, and so if I have to move a lot of boxes one time, I'll build a wheelbarrow. But building a wheelbarrow is not the point. You're not solving the problem once. You are allowing yourself to solve future problems. But even that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is if you understand how a wheel works or a fulcrum or something, every time you have a problem that involves moving anything, you have a toolbox with which to apply from, right? And so my point is not so much write a tool to solve X, it's learn how batch files work, learn how to write a bit of Python. Just like these are actually surprisingly small things in the grand scheme of other systems, and they're often 5 or 6 lines of code that will vastly solve other problems.
Yeah.
This is the chart you're talking about, right, Andrew?
It is. Yes, it is.
Which I think I first saw from Chris Lucian. So it's the first when I went into their office, and it shows how much time you, how much time you can spend automating things to make it worthwhile. Essentially, I think it says how long can you work on making a routine task more efficient before you're spending more time than you save. So it gives you a good idea of how, based on how often you do the thing. And in this case, like a YouTube thing, you'd be doing it nonstop. If you were doing it manually, you'd be doing it, you know, nonstop all day, every day. So you're in like that 50 times a day. Right?
but just keep in mind too, this chart isn't like some research chart. This is a joke comic from XKCD. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
It's not accurate numbers by any means. Yeah, it's just give you a good idea of at least it gives me a good idea to remember to automate things, but not to automate things that you're going to do once, or like once a year or something. You don't need to spend a bunch of time automating that. But if you're going to do it nonstop and it's constant and it takes a long time, you should automate the hell out of that. I mean, it really reminds me a lot of what I used to do a lot of at Sony, which was just looking at designer, a lot of the stuff when I was doing a lot of tool development, especially for a long time. I did a bunch of tool development and then tool and gameplay development side by side. And one of the, I think, most useful things that it would do is talk to the designers and find out what they were spending their time on. And I used to hang out with a lot of the designers, so I get a really good idea of what they were spending their time on. And whenever they would like give me some inkling that they were spending way too much time on something that seemed stupid, they're like, oh, I'm going to edit these items and I'm going to edit these items for the next week. I'm like, okay, that seems like maybe an option or an opportunity to automate and fix these processes. And yeah, I don't know. It's given me like flashbacks of all of the time savings and opportunities that just kind of exist in companies. And if you just look for them, you can really speed things up. At least in, maybe there's some super optimized companies where there's no opportunity for it. But I mean, I saw it like everywhere. Everything from just build times, getting a build to designers and the rest of the team, being able to optimize that, or optimizing your own local build times, or any of the tools and stuff for the artists and the rest of the team. It makes a huge difference, and it's not that difficult. You just have to pay attention, kind of like loosely look for where people are spending their time and where that seems wrong, and then go find out why it seems wrong. Like, if it seems like, why are they spending a month doing this task that sounds like it should take an hour? Is there more to it, or is it just super slow and you click save and then you wait a minute, and then you wait and do the next one? Because sometimes that's the case, right? Especially when you get like CS and QA, like they'll deal with all kinds of bullshit that they shouldn't, because they feel bad about talking back and fighting for it a lot of the time.
Yeah, many times I've worked in companies where there was like an unspoken rule where they would take a document and then run through and like delete a weird character, and they'd spend like 30 minutes as this like unspoken process post sending it. And I'm like, I could have just literally one line regex that. Like, it saved all, like, you don't need to do that extra step afterwards. It's why I'm a big proponent of learning what tools are available, because I think it's more than just like building the tools, because I find that you're more likely to find creative solutions if you literally know what tools are available to you. A good example of this, many times I've had to write a name generator, just random gibberish names to fill up 1,000 entities so that I can uniquely do stuff, or hashes or something. And the way I used to do that is I would generate random characters, but it's not particularly interesting to look at, and it's very hard to talk about. And so I did some research, and there's a better way to do it, which is making human readable names. And that basically is the same thing, but you intersperse a ratio of vowels to consonants, and you get random words, but the random words sound more human. Slightly better. But then if you're doing stuff with names, you want real names. And this is where previously what I would do is I would either type up or find a list of 100 names. But as I started doing the research, I kind of realized every culture is going to arbitrarily pick, relative to their region, names that they like. I go to Mary and James and Jake and stuff because that's, the kinds of random names that come to my mind. And so I started thinking, what's a better way to do this? And so I went to ChatGPT, and because I have it in my terminal, I can literally say, create a text file that contains a list of 50 countries and regions or locales with different naming conventions for like different likelihoods for names in different countries. And then I said, for each one of those, make a subarray in the JSON document that says, find me, 100 Eastern male names, 100 Eastern female names, 100 Eastern surnames, and then do the same thing for 4 or 5 different regions of Africa, 2 or 3 regions of China, different regions of wherever. And so now I have a random generator I built that lets me pick whether I want to have Western or Eastern names, whether I want to have male or female, whether I want to include the surname or not include the surname. And yeah, I wrote a script on top of it, but like 90% of what the magic of that script is a 50 kilobyte file that I basically talked a few times to text in my terminal to spit out, squashed it to one file, and I now have a really powerful cross-platform thing that I can drop into any project. And so I wouldn't have thought of doing that had I not known that it's actually quite easy to generate JSON arrays using ChatGPT, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you're just using that one file now across all of them?
Yeah, because I used to use web services. There are web services like thispersondoesn'texist.com and other different things like that. But now you're like hitting web API calls, and like, quite frankly, a lot of those databases, if you start using them often enough, you'll realize they have like 2,000 names in their list. And it's like, I can literally store a text file with like the variation set. I can build myself a few million different entries if I wanted to. And so the fact that I could literally say, find me 1600s British names and give me a list of 100, and it's just, you know, whatever, and I can just do that and go, now I can generate, then it's just up to the design of the tool, right? The tool lets me do different sliders and different values, and then I don't want to get into one step past that, where personally I like making it really good, and so I built inverted indexes and then cache the phonemes for the things, and you can get some really cool stuff to build really efficient stuff. And then I said, what are average nicknames for different people in different countries, so I can have nicknames that evaluate to true names or whatever. And so yeah, I probably went overboard because it was a lot of fun at the time as I was making it, but the principle's there, right? The idea being that if you have a problem, it's not so much about the tool itself. It's about, if you know how to use different things, your instinct won't be like the thing I mentioned earlier with the subtitles. I didn't build that as like a big complicated thing. I was just like, I want subtitles. There's like 6 ways I could do this. My first instinct is find out what tools are available to do this. And I found transcribers and auto-transcribers and all this stuff. And then I found out that actually on YouTube, there is already a tab that does this. There's a free tab like built automatically for a transcription you can grab. And I said, okay, that's pretty cool. But if it's built into the website, then there's going to be a way to grab that. I could possibly write my own web scraper that will like go to the web page and grab it. I'm like, well, if I thought about doing that, someone else has thought about doing that. And so I went to GitHub and was like, is there something like this already? And of course there is. And then you grab the source code, compile it to a executable, drop it into a path directory on your computer, and Bob your uncle, one word, abracadabra, get the subtitles, right? So my point isn't so much the tool to learn. It's more, if you understand those concepts and what's available, your instinct will go straight to the shorter answer because you know that's a probable possibility based on what's available, you know?
It makes sense. Instead of trying to go through and do it yourself or buy some service and do a whole bunch of stuff, you actually start looking for what exists and knowing where to look. And I think it's smart mentioning that you go over to GitHub and look and see if there's a tool that already kind of does that. It's got the source. You don't have to go rewrite it yourself. And
actually, to answer, there's a question about how do I have it in the terminal? I was going to say,
I was curious if you can take that.
Yeah. So I mean, for starters, the OpenAPI API is really easy. It's really good. Like legitimately, it's one line. If you ever use the REST API, it is a single REST post call where you type in what you want and you get back an array that has the thing that you need. So the long story short is, if you want any application to have an integration with a GPT, it's about 6 lines of code. Doesn't matter if you're talking PHP, Java, C#. Like I wrote my own integrations for Unity. I wrote my own integrations for a million different things, just because it's easy, just because it's a simple thing to have and it can be useful. But to answer that question, I was about to. I had the idea to do it, and I followed my own advice, and I found something called GPT CLI, and I grabbed that instead because the source code was available as a PHP app on GitHub. So the short answer is, it's not locally running. It's just I put in my API key, I run it locally against my terminal, and there you go. It's a single REST call that does the call for me. I even debated writing a tool on top of it that would do all the auto caching and stuff, because I did that for my own version. But I was like, actually, I don't need to, because as long as you've got pipes in terminal, you can literally take the results and feed it into and out of stuff, as you saw in that video. So there's no need to go more complicated, because again, it goes to the other point. Don't over-engineer, use what you need. And in my case, I can grab a thing, drop it in, write 3 lines, and I can get what I need.
It makes a lot of sense. So that was called Auto CLI, you said?
Legitimately, I can't remember the name. I just wrote ChatGPT space command line or space CLI into Google, and I grabbed the first 2 or 3 results, and then I perused the source code to make sure it wasn't doing anything sketchy, and I grabbed one that I liked. It's probably the highest rated whatever CLI tool on GitHub for GPT, most likely.
Oh, okay. Oh, looks like they found it. Nice.
By the way, there's this for everything. Like, for example, GitHub. I have a GitHub API, so I can search repositories, pull down local ones. I can check PRs and stuff all from the terminal. So like that's a first party GitHub CLI tool. So like almost anything is a CLI tool. If you look for it, you can either make it or use it. And then after that, it becomes just stitching things, take result from one, feed to other, and so on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with that a little bit. I use GPT constantly, but I haven't in the last couple of days. So I'm gonna have to play around with that and the new stuff that the custom ones. These custom ones sound kind of.
I'm
I don't have a
tempted
good
now.
use for them, though.
A few people have made some jokes about doing like a JSON GPT, and I was thinking how like I know it's not hard. It's more about effort. And I was thinking I could legitimately go to every appearance I've ever had online. There's actually probably about 300 hours of me talking on YouTube alone. I could grab all of that, scrape the transcripts, dump it into a data source, build a vector database. And I mostly talk about my opinions on specific programming technical stuff. So it feels like it'd be pretty relative to what I normally think. So
And AI voices.
I already have one of those too. Yeah, I built myself a 11 Labs voice of myself too, so I could have it speak it out as well.
Yep.
It'll just talk for you.
I mean, this is the world we get to where suddenly content is cheap as all can be because anyone can do a query on whatever. Say, make me a video on this topic and use this guy's voice, and I can make a dev video with Jason Story's voice on how to use my assets. And I can do it in 5 seconds and just go get some coffee, come back. It's done. It's got nice visuals and everything in Jason's voice. And then I can publish it and say it's from him.
Jason Story presents how to use the color portraits.
It's going to be a fun, interesting world once we get through all the dark stuff.
I think you should use John Carmack too, though. Have them be like a pair together, side by side.
Well, Carmack I think would be easier. So the one benefit I have is because I rant so much, the inflection is all over the place, and AI is still dodgy on inflection. So you'll probably be able to tell that it's not me by the constant like raising and lowering of its pitch. but Carmack speaks with such a straight, even keel. I would legitimately have a hard time differentiating an AI Carmack.
No, it's just going to be a conversation between you and Joe Rogan.
Debating singletons the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When everyone at my mastermind is replaced by GPT and 11 Labs. Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
Shadow Soul Studios had a comment that I should connect the runtime color sampler to my lights behind me. There's probably an API for that too. I'm sure that
there is APIs on the Asset Store for it. But if your eye was here, you'd hear some ranting about the intricacies of some of the very specific annoyances where they're non-standard between different light providers, and it gets into some interesting territory.
That's why I was saying about the LED keyboards and mice and stuff. That if you want to support that in your game, it's a nightmare.
What type of LEDs do you have behind you?
These are Hue, so it's probably a decent.
Yeah. Okay.
To the point earlier as well, almost all of those lights run locally on ports, and so yes, the more advanced stuff requires complex, setting up, but almost all of them have a one-line call you can make on your local network. So, for example, if you wanted to control your Hue lights, it's literally 2 lines of PHP to do it. Like, it's just too simple. Like all of these different scripts are very, very simple. In fact, if you're using, say, a Stream Deck, there's already plugins natively for all of that. And it's literally just, it'll do a scan, pick up all the local devices, you click the ones you want. And all of that stuff is very simple to set up. All of my lights I've got 2 Hue, 2 LifeX, and a few others. So I played with all of those APIs at various stages.
Yeah, I don't remember the Hue one being that easy to deal with. I remember some of the other ones were pretty simple, but I remember the Hue one being kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, not if you use it through their own system, but actually like hacking and coding for it. I don't remember that one being easy, but it may have changed drastically. Yeah,
Elgato's one has an annoying habit of losing its own connection to its lights in a way that infuriates me.
Oh, it's not just
so
me,
annoying.
huh?
Yeah. It's like you're on the same network. Just bloody pick it up. Why do I have to keep closing and opening your damn control app? It's like, it's annoying.
Just this morning, I've got two Elgato lights right here. They disconnected from the and then this maybe you can see it. There's one light on top of this Mystic Veil concave box that's unplugged because suddenly it's not connecting to the Hue app.
That's one of the Hue Bowl ones. The little
Hue Bowl, these are all Bluetooth enabled one too. So I need to get the hub, I guess, to get a more stable connection to them. But
next time I see you, I'll give you one. I've got a stack of them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. When I first got Hue lights years ago, they were on sale, and so I bought. They was much cheaper to get 3 in a pack with a hub than it was to get individual ones. So I bought all these, and I had a stack too. But that was years ago.
You got rid of them. Yeah, I still have them from exactly that.
On the Hue thing, my 2 favorite features are actually the sensor. Have you got one of those? They're actually really cool. Just you put it on the stairs, and so every time you open the door and you're going up the stairs, it just automatically fades up the lights and down again, which is very nice. And the other one is the light switch. So the one problem with smart lights is light switch. It doesn't really work as easily anymore. It still works. Like a lot of them, if you toggle the light switch twice, it'll recognize and then turn off. But what's really cool about the Hue ones is it's a magnetized clicker that's attached to a faceplate that sticks in the wall. So it looks like a normal on-off switch 99% of the time, but you can actually take it off because it is just a little wireless device. And you could just, sit down on the couch and use it there. And then when you get up to leave the room, you can clamp it back on the wall. It's just very small, but it's a nice quality of life.
It is. It's very. I actually had a few of those back in the day. The only downside is once, a kid realizes that they can play pranks on you by switching them all in the different rooms. And then
got one right here.
Those are great.
Yeah.
And they also you can customize them, do different options. I think the newest ones you can not really program them, but you can really get a lot of different options.
The new one, they've got a version like this that has a dimmer that you can twist with 4 buttons, and it does the scenes. But I wanted to tell you, if you are into Hue lights and stuff, the thing that kind of blew me away that's super cheap and was awesome was these Aurora dimmers. I happen to have one like right here next to me in the drawer. So I was like, oh, that's perfect timing. But it's essentially, you can see it goes over a regular light switch. It's a little circle, pops over the top, and then it uses Hue. It syncs up to the Hue lights.
Right, it's just a little receiver. Yeah, that's cool. That makes sense. Yeah.
So it forces the light to be on because it's covering the switch. You just basically like screw it on over there. It's really simple to install. You basically pop it on over the switch thing, and then it forces it on, and then you've got a button to turn on and off, and then a dimmer, and then it works with a multi-way switch. So I've got it for the hallway where I've got a switch on both ends. Makes it nice and easy to just have a dimmer on both ends to control all of the lights and go through the colors and stuff. And then this switch does the same exact lights, so I can do it from my bed.
I think I mentioned probably the most ridiculous but fun version of that I ever did is way back in college. There was a device called the Myo armband, MYO. And it was like a bunch of little stretching clips, and you'd put it on your arm, and it would sort of clamp on your arm. And as you move the muscles in your hand, it would detect the muscle changes, and it would activate basically like any other trigger system. But the upshot of this means it could detect gyroscopic motion and also like hand gestures. So of course I set it up to my lights, and I did the like full force. I could rotate the lights on and off, and I could, force them on and off and then change their colors. It was completely impractical, but it was very fun when you had a party over and someone's like I think my favorite example is when someone said, "Where's the bathroom?" And I had like a gesture I could do, and the lights would do a like ding, 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 like towards the bathroom. It was completely impractical, but it was just a fun little,
See, that sounds hilarious.
You just need to connect the next gen Alexas so that anyone says, "Where's the bathroom?" and it says, "Hello, here's the bathroom," and it just does it for you. See?
Just have a little robot drive up and guide them.
A lot of people don't realize that too, is you can override statements for the Google devices as well. So I used to do that where, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but I used to do magic when I was younger. And so what you can do is there's a lot of clever tricks for leading questions and how to get people to respond certain ways. For example, if you ask someone, what's the biggest X to Google, someone is going to respond with what's the smallest X as like to parrot the response. So if you design it well enough, you can have them ask that and get back derogatory response for that person. So there's been a lot of particularly fun back and forths I had with that one. So yeah, you can really do a lot with those, and that's not even API. That's just the app itself. You could literally just like write preset statements that resulted in preset answers.
Yeah, I haven't played with those for a while, but I've got them all over. I should do this more. I didn't realize Story was a wizard name. So there was a question here I wanted to see if we can talk about real quick before we run out of time. About looking for game dev jobs. So I've been looking for game dev jobs, and they're all senior level positions. It's impossible to find entry level. WTF. I'm curious. I've talked to a few people who've been looking for jobs in the last couple weeks, and it does seem like the market's kind of dried up. Like there's a lot of people looking and not nearly as many job openings. Are you guys seeing the same kind of thing?
Yeah. I was at a conference 3 weeks ago in Poland, the biggest one in Poland, and yeah, middle jobs, some on senior jobs more, but no beginners, no juniors. No
I was going to say, yeah, even medium level. Like we're trying to find people to work on a project with professionals where we want to hire other professionals. They're like, I've got 4 things, I can't do it. So it's even hard to find people to work with you at that same level. Never mind, So it is. Everyone is. Yeah, there's not jobs at the moment, realistically, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But I would say apply anyways, Raphael. Like, don't let that senior word confuse you, because a lot of times they just put that in there because they want to cut out a lot of people because too many people are going to apply, but apply anyways.
Yeah, definitely don't let the requirements stop you from applying. But also, one of the things that's interesting is I noticed that like when I talk to people, everybody's not hiring and they're all searching for jobs. When I went to the meetup in LA last week, like half the people were there trying to recruit for their companies. They were trying to hire somebody to come there. There weren't very many people at the meetup, but about, I think there were like 12, and about 6 of them were there saying that their company was hiring, and they were kind of curious to find people that were hiring. I expect that those meetups and stuff are going to keep kind of growing and getting bigger, though, and they may be a good option. They've always in the past been a great place for finding jobs, and there'd be like a paper on there with all of the job openings that the people that they're hiring for, and there'd be recruiters standing up talking. So I expect that to kind of come back. And the one thing that I did get to hear from the Unity CEO that I think I can talk about, I don't think I heard anything secret, but I'm always afraid to talk about stuff. But it sounds like he was really interested in like regrowing community stuff. He'd even mentioned like buying pizzas for user groups type stuff, like actually kind of supporting the community. And it seems like he had that as a background too with Red Hat. They're very community driven. So it seemed like he was interested in kind of supporting and growing that back to where it was kind of pre-COVID. I don't know what the details of that are, but it could be interesting and nice, I think.
I think I've talked about this, but I wouldn't be here if not for things like the user groups where, back in the day, I would go to the user group in San Francisco at the Unity office, and they would buy pizza for people. And that was great. I love pizza. So there's that. And then I would talk to people, I would meet all the Unity folks who would come by and speak. At the time, the asset store team at the time was in that office, and they were, for whatever reason, the ones who were hosting that group or were there. So I got to meet all of them. That's part of the reason why I got into making assets, because I was already using them, but I just learned more and more about using Unity and got inspired to make assets, so that's, those things are amazing.
They are, but again, it's kind of the hard truth is like, again, like if people put themselves in the perspective of the hirers, they want to see exceptional people. Now, exceptional doesn't mean exceptionally skilled. They mean stands out. They are the exception in some capacity, one way or another. They are differentiating themselves. And what a lot of people do is not differentiate themselves. They purposefully blend in with the crowd. They don't want to make a fuss. Yeah. They don't want to be too much noise. And it's like, well, cool. So literally, why would they hire you? You've demonstrated nothing other than you are exactly like other people. And so they'll find someone who isn't that. So I say it all the time is make yourself known, right? And sometimes that means
walking directly up to people and talking to them. Sometimes that means making content or producing stuff that you can demonstrate somewhere. Other times it just means accepting that for a long time you'll have to be in communities and offer free help, make your name synonymous with the stuff you're doing, and then work comes to you, right? It is very hard to get work, but that's because you're chasing it. Like, rather than chasing it, because all of the heads are so low, if you just pick your head up a little bit higher, you don't have to look as hard. People will see you. That's the real secret.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel on that setting yourself aside part, I know it's still kind of minor, but I still feel like actually attending these things afterwards, where it's not, you're doing something for work or for school where it's mandatory and you're going there because you're interested in these things. For a lot of the recruiters and other developers, it kind of sets them aside to at least know that you've got like a heavy interest. As long as you don't go there and you're like, hey, I'm just here, I need a job, anybody hiring, and that's all you say the whole time. But if you're actually there, like, interested and engaged and talking to people, you can definitely mention that you're interested, but people will usually tell you when they're hiring. They'll mention it right away and be like, oh, I might be interested in that.
And the other part too is, like, you can turn people on that. Like, a lot of people don't realize, if someone is like, nobody wants to let a catch go, right? And if someone demonstrates themselves as being, oh damn, that person seems really confident or skilled or whatever, like, people will make exceptions. It's not like, even if they're not actively looking, they'll keep an eye on people who are particularly standoutish. So again, very subtle trick. If you see somebody who's got a stand or some event or something and they're doing something, walk up and ask questions about it. Then as you're asking questions, go, oh, are you using insert technical term this way? It's like, oh, actually we are. And then just start back and forth. Don't even mention you're looking for work. Just be somebody who seems to know the topic. Say, oh, have you tried doing it this way? Oh, I have. No, that's interesting. And then you can just walk away. And now you're somebody going, oh, that person is very clearly aware of the kind of stuff we're doing. They might be useful. And then if later on you pass by them again and say, oh yeah, I'm actually having another chat. How's it going? Whatever. Okay. Are you looking for work? Yeah, actually I might be. And then there you go. Like, it's all about just generally, again, standing out, but not having to be obnoxious about it,
Yeah, and you can stay in contact too. If you reach out and have good conversations, just get their email address or whatever thing you use to talk to people. If you're younger than me and you don't use email, get that and keep in contact. I think it makes a big difference. And when they go to hire later too, or they hear about positions, they will think of you and recommend you and kind of let you know about that. At least that's been the case that I've seen. Like, I recommend people off of those things all the time, people that I talk to, and I've seen that happen more times than I can count. Plus, just like I said, there are always people there recruiting, trying to hire. Even, like I said, last month at the LA meetup, where I didn't expect anybody to be recruiting, there were people there. And I'm hoping that meetup and some of the other ones in the area kind of get big. Actually, I was going to see if it's possible. It's probably too short term, but if we can do like a watch party for Unite from the LA one, since it sounds like they're going to do the release of the videos during the daytime. Initially, I was thinking they were going to do them like at midnight, which would make it totally unrealistic. But if they're doing them in the afternoon, it might be kind of cool to do a launch party or like a watch party out there or something.
Yeah.
But I had something else in my head too, but it's totally disappeared. I don't remember what it was now. Let's see. Yeah. Well, let's take this question, and then if I can remember the other thing, I'll let you know. And if anybody's got anything else, but Dom was wondering if you see any routes for generalists to make money outside of the asset store until more entry positions open up. So they're having a hard time finding a job. Are there some other opportunities outside? Because the asset store is an option, but it does take a while, and you have to come up. I feel like you have to come up with something that's going to solve a need, and it's hard to get immediate sales. I know I've done one that had like 0 sales, and then one that did like 500 to 1,000 a month that just happened to be something that somebody at a user group recommended. I was like, hey, I would really like this, and I would pay $30 for it. You should make it. And I was like, okay, I'll go make that. But yeah, what do you guys have for thoughts on this?
Yeah, I asset store right now, no, it's not viable option. Even the best publishers have troubles right now on asset store, so it got there too. I think Lem had a good answer that I would also pursue, because there are other options than games using Unity. Yeah, of course, it's movies, architecture. There's lots and lots of industries using Unity, and they have more people hiring than the game industry right now. And because industry recovered quite quicker than game industry. So, for example, my colleagues are working on photogrammetry projects where they scan entire factories and make trainings in them. And trainings are always a good thing to find a job. And they are using technology Unity to the maximum possibilities of 3D, 2D, VR, IR. So yeah, there's a lot of jobs in the other industries that involve Unity. And when the game dev recovers, you can always go back and have new things that you learn there. I worked for 4 years for the space industry and military, working on Unity projects only. So yeah, there's lots of possibilities in the other.
Yeah, and
It's like stories probably got. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was gonna say if you do have stuff on the asset store, even if it's not making you enough money to get by and stuff, that is in many ways part of your portfolio to show people, look, I do make stuff. I make tools. I did this tool, even if it's not directly related to what that person is doing. It just shows that you're able to produce content and systems that people can use that do get produced. It's kind of like saying I've made games. Like, you want to get a job at a game studio? Well, how many games have you made? Oh, I've released 5 games. None of them have been super successful, but hey, at least you can finish a game, you know? And so I think those things are helpful when looking for other jobs in other industries as well that use Unity, so that you know that you actually probably know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just go to. I always walk this down the chain to the most basic answer, which is, why do people hire people? Well, they have problems they need solving. So who are they going to hire? People who can solve problems. Where are they going to find people that solve problems? In the communities around that thing. Which people in those communities are they going to find? The ones who are visibly solving problems, the ones answering questions in forums and posts and threads and whatever. And so if you're looking for work and you're a generalist, that's awesome. That means you have a huge amount of things that you can solve problems with. And a lot of people do not appreciate how your generalist is actually to other people 7 times of wizardry. Like, so many things that you don't think about that they're like, I didn't even know that was possible. So oftentimes you can say 1 or 2 things and completely save someone hours of work. So in my case, like, it's like, again, I don't see it as that surprising, because it's a lot of people are kind of waiting for an opportunity to appear. But there's people all of the time drowning, trying to solve problems and not knowing what to do. And they're hovering in the edges of communities. And then there's other people who don't even think to ask for help. And so half the people I've worked for in the past, I've literally seen them post things on Twitter or on Discords or whatever, and I see something in the GIF or video or whatever they've made that could be better. And I would say, hey, I really like your X, but your Y could use a bit of work. Hey, did you know you can do this? You don't ask for a job. You're not saying, just point out, I know this thing. Here is the thing you could do. Use that information if you like. And if you do that with enough people, in enough communities, over enough time, somebody's going to admit, okay, I need help, and they'll come back to you. And then after that happens a few times, you'll be like, cool. Now you're going to have to start paying me, though. Now we're at the point where this isn't friendship stuff anymore.
Don't sound condescending when you do it, though.
yeah. Obviously, you'd be nice about it. But the principle is simply, the principle is just be helpful, right? Like I cannot stress this enough, is that it's people want to solve problems. There are people who have problems. The trick is find people with problems, right? Like, you can go look for work, but that means you're basically saying, I want work, and you're kind of like projecting that at people. Instead, look for problems. Look for people who have, and again, problems that don't be the most complicated thing in the world. You don't have to build big giant solutions. Find someone working on a website who doesn't know basic JavaScript, and there are lots of them out there, and you can help them out. And it might not be lots of money, but it'll be enough money to build portfolios and contacts and references. And if you're a generalist, you can do that for 50 different things.
Yeah, one of the other things you guys have kind of reminded me of and pushed towards is when you're working with people in other industries too, a lot of the time the Unity stuff and the visualization and the things that are possible aren't even something that they're considering. Like, they don't even realize all of the things that they can do, and they may not even be considering it. I've seen a lot of people at non-Unity meetups that were just like programmer ones and architecture ones suddenly talk to somebody who's using Unity and then start using it in their corporate setup because it solves a problem. They're trying to do like rendering with JavaScript, right? One of the cases they were doing, I forget what exactly they were rendering. They're doing some rendering of something in JavaScript, and they're spending all this time and effort on it. And then somebody else showed them that they could very easily do that in Unity, deploy it out to the same device, and not have to recreate all that stuff from scratch.
And it doesn't have to be that technical. Like there's people I've seen who have been spending literally 2 weeks manually copying, searching data and pasting it into Excel sheets. And I was like, let me show you how to import a CSV file. And then let me show you how to use ChatGPT to generate a CSV file. And then suddenly we can start speeding up all of these processes. And it's just like loads of people are doing so many things. And so basic automations, basic helping out here and there. Like other people I know were struggling with emails. They literally, because their work is nothing technical. They're just doing stuff with like finance and business and stuff. And their emails are flooded. And it's like, did you know you can tag and label emails, automatically group them and set priority tags relative to what's helpful to you? They're like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, you've saved that person hours of their life, right? So be a problem solver, and it doesn't have to be that technical. Like to you, this stuff is boring and basic, but to them, that's life-changing. So look for problems. That's kind of the same principle.
Yeah. I completely
create the problems.
Just create them and then have the solution available.
Yeah, you just don't tell them that you're the one creating it, but create the problem and then show up and be like, hey, you got a problem here. I got the solution.
And then back cutting your internet wire and then setting your internet back.
Yeah. It's like throwing a bunch of nails on the road right outside of your tire repair shop.
It sounds like a great idea to drum up some business.
Yeah, or putting popcorn or salty nuts in the bar so that people need to drink more.
That one works. My family's owned bars for years.
They're not
you want to go one step better is actually cooked chicken wings in really hot sauce. Same principle, but you'll get lots of beer sold. Works like a charm. We used to have a triple Tabasco chicken wing we would give away for free on the bar. It's like, hey, just have wings. Go for it. And then it would like 5x the beer sales.
Yeah. I used to go to a bar that had free popcorn, and we wanted the free popcorn, and then we would just have more drinks probably, but yeah.
Oh man. Oh, I got some solutions, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we gotta start wrapping things up. I did want to there's a super chat. Hold on. I'm missing things.
One last question.
Yeah, let's take this. Any thoughts on using Unity for everyday applications outside of game dev? So there's a little bit of chat about this in there too. I think Shadow Souls was talking about using it to build a weather app. And personally, I think we were just kind of talking about this, but I think that you can definitely do it. There was a question about power usage and optimization. And there are, I think, some scenarios where that probably does come into play. If you have some application that's going to be running super long time, not plugged in.
Mobile especially, like Pokemon Go is a prime example of one that would absolutely just ruin your phone. Like even trying to do any normal app in Unity on the phone is like, this is not practical for like a long-term application.
Yeah. But if it's something where you're doing things in like 20-30 minute bursts, you're working on it, getting the job done, totally fine. I just wouldn't do it for something that like you need to run constantly. It's like a background service type thing. I might not. I still might go with Unity just because I probably wouldn't care that much about everybody else's battery. But if I cared about optimizing people's batteries, I might look at other options, or Dots too, because Dots is supposed to solve that problem of not wasting CPU time and burning things up.
What are your thoughts on let's say Unity pretty well, you're confident you can do a thing in Unity, you don't know how to do it in a native language for Google or Apple or whatnot, and saying, okay, I just want to make this rather than learn something else, or even just let me prove it works in Unity and deploy it, and then if it gets sales, we can update it to a native language.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine personally, because if you can get it actually done and deployed in whatever, then get it done and deployed. Don't waste the time trying to figure out the new thing unless you've got that specific requirement of you've got to get that battery usage way down. But then I'd probably still just go to dots instead.
Yeah, like it's the old cliche of like the best tool for the job is the one that gets the job done. Like it doesn't actually matter what you pick. I would say though that personally, almost all apps these days are effectively an API with extra steps. Almost everything you do is some form of web API or web calls or web something. And I find that, well, yes, you can do the Unity route. I think philosophically, from a design perspective, if that's the angle you want to go, you're better off either finding someone or learning how to just do web stuff. It doesn't have to be web stuff in JavaScript. It can be web stuff with Blazor or with just .NET or with any language you like. But if you can do web stuff and you can build a web-based app, then there are a million other apps which will host your web app in their platform or on their thing, and you get all the benefits of the low profiling and low cost and various stuff. Again, native apps are often better, but if you do want to solve that problem of like globally having that tool set, learning to do web once will like net you for life, because you could always deploy a web app. And that's probably the best long-term solution. I wouldn't, like, I make apps for Unity for myself because they're fun and easier and I can animate them quite nicely. Like I built a comic book viewer for myself because I was fed up of going to 7 different websites. Just little things where I would just build web scrapers, or I would, build my own little apps for testing different things here and there. But principally, I wouldn't recommend Unity generally as like a go-to desktop app. But again, not saying you can't. It's just if you build it as either a terminal app or a web app, it'll scale to everything. It just gives you a lot more flexibility and just slapping a UI front end on it.
Yeah, it just, for me, it just really depends on if I'm going to take advantage of the Unity stuff too. Like if I'm not going to take advantage of the rendering setup or the physics system, then it might not necessarily need to use Unity. I might still use it for something small where it's not a big deal, but yeah.
One other thing too, this is just more of a like light bulb thing for me that was really mind blowing when I first learned it. There's like proper apps where you're actually designing something fancy, but there's a lot of apps which are actually, as weird as it sounds, you just design a pretty picture in Photoshop and then you slap that as the background, including all of the bars, all of the UI, all of the levels. And then you just put some invisible buttons over the top of it. There's actually a lot of tools. There was one called Color Desktop, which was literally a mobile replacement app for Android. But there's so many of these that if you're struggling to make an app like that, that's one thing that's good about Unity or other things. If you can set the background wallpaper to an app and then just like hook into the barest minimum of that platform's tools to use inputs and stuff, you can get away with a lot, especially if you're doing, again, terminal or console app, and all you're doing is taking the inputs and feeding it in. Like if I wanted to build a Unity-based video conversion tool, I would just grab FFmpeg. I would make a glorified text box that takes in a drop-down URL, press a button that would make that do it, and I would just grab the result and render a thumbnail, and you click it, and I would open your native video player. I've effectively built a video converter in Unity with like 7 lines of code and a couple of hooks. So yeah, you can actually simplify a lot of this. That's why, to me, Unity is a rendering thing. It's not like I wouldn't use Unity, as Jason said, unless I was using Unity for Unity stuff,
Yeah, you're going to be using the rendering, the physics, the input, and you're going to be actually using the kind of core systems, the things that it's solving for you. So it makes, yeah. All right, well, we're wrapping things up, but real quick, Pal, you got anything coming up in this flash sale?
In flash sale, there's a watch streamer tool that's for streaming large worlds, creating open world games and things like that. It's coming in the flash sale. I think it's 2 weeks.
Oh, sweet.
Like that. So there's still time. Yeah, exactly. This one.
Yeah. Go grab. So that'll be up on the flash sale. And then, Andrew, you've got a couple things going on there, I assume, right? Plus, you've got now everything on sale.
There's everything on sale, but one person pointed out that my most popular package, which is the 13-pack RPG complete, that comes with the humans, the half-orcs, the dragon, the horse, all that. That is going to be on flash sale, I think, in the first day or two. It's like in 6 days. So it's like, I think it's the last day of the Publisher of the Week is also the first day of Black Friday, and so that one will be I think 70% off is I think it's 70% off. And so don't buy that now. And if you do, you can send me an email or send Unity. You'll give you a refund and you can get the cheaper price. But everything else will not be on Black Friday. So everything else I think there's one other low poly pack that's in Black Friday, but everything else is not going to be on sale on Black Friday. So like the big monster bundles that are, $250 off right now are not going to be. Yeah, there's 2 of those. So those ones are not going to be in Black Friday. So everything else, the tools, game modules, I don't think game modules is in Black Friday. I have to check. But game modules, that's my most popular tool right now, which is great because I love it and it's my little baby and all that. That one's on sale right now, and I don't think it's in Black Friday. So all those, now's the time for in any Infinity PBR stuff. Spend all your money now, and then you don't have to worry about Black Friday.
Yeah, nice. And if you don't want to spend very much money, you can go spend, what is it, like $5 or $1 to join the Jason Story Discord to get past the bot spam protection?
I don't even know how much it is. It's between $1 and $5. It's something like that.
Yeah, lifetime access gets you past there, and great discussions like that architecture one. I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. If that turns into something else, it'd be very interesting. I love watching your Discord and just kind of following along.
The smartest Discord out there is Stories.
Yeah, it's definitely great. And then the last thing I want to mention,
not because of me, but literally because I'll walk away and I'll be there having like a 5-hour conversation about the minutiae of the animation system. So it's there's a lot of people
is probably the best part of it. Yeah. You're the second best part. Yora is the best. No, those conversations are interesting. It's always like super technical and just well thought out, I think. So I like it a lot. Last thing I want to mention, the multiplayer mastery course. The next lesson is going to be on Monday. We're not having a lesson tomorrow. And lots of people yesterday and Tuesday. Nice, fun, interesting sessions. The Q&As have been a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of people in there. The evening ones are not as busy though. So if anybody's interested in coming to the evening ones, they're 6 p.m. There's like 20-ish people instead of the 50-ish in the other call. So lots of fun. And see you there. Anyway, I'm going to shut up about that. Anybody got any other last things before we get going for the week?
If anyone's going to be at Unite next week, I last minute am going to Unite next week for my day job.
That is awesome.
So come find me somewhere. I'll be somewhere.
Have to do a live stream from Unite. Or actually, the time will probably be terrible. It'll be like 2 a.m. or something, but we'll figure it out.
Pavel can do it.
No, it shouldn't be. Yeah, just before the party, it should be like at the same time. Like now.
Yeah. So it'd be like
when we have between the Unite and the party. So just after the conference ends, have time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming out and joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and all that stuff. Drop comments if you got thoughts on things that you think we should be talking about and all that. And we will see you probably next week.
Sweet.
All right. Well, hold on. I'm going to go find the little graphic since I didn't play it on the way on the intro. So we'll go hello outro graphic. Bye, everybody.